Welcome to StopFake, the place where we debunk disinformation about Ukraine and set the record straight. I'm Irena Chalupa with this week's batch of informational mendacity. Among the fakes we examined this week, are U.S. businesses really suffering from Russia sanctions? And is Austria eager to roll those sanctions back? So where are all those hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian vacationers who've gone south to Russian-occupied Crimea? And a fictitious person presents a fictitious demand for autonomy. Sounds compelling? It is. So let's get to the details. Russia sanctions continue to be an endless topic for all sorts of fakes in the Russian media. Last week, Russian daily Vzglyad published a story claiming that the U.S. State Department has announced that Russian sanctions are harming American and European businesses. Vzglyad quoted Daniel Fried, the State Department's coordinator for sanctions policy, who allegedly said that with sanctions, problems are inevitable, as they lead to undesirable consequences and always have a price. There are American companies that are constantly coming into my office to talk about the losses they incur. This happens not only with European companies, Fried said. Vzglyad sources the official Russian TASS news agency for this story. However, the story is nowhere to be found on the TASS website. Once again, the Russian version of what the American diplomat actually said is only partially true and pulled out of context. Speaking at a Center for Strategic and International Studies discussion on the promises and pitfalls of the transatlantic policy on sanctions, Fried said the following: "Sanctions have unintended consequences, and they always have costs. But the complaints about losses are often exaggerated. Companies love to exaggerate. Pro-Russian lobbyists love to exaggerate." Vzglyad and other Russian media conveniently omitted the part of Fried's statement that mentioned these exaggerations. The CSIS discussion is available on YouTube, and Daniel Fried's talk begins on the 14th minute. So watch it. Another sanctions story this week involves the Austrian Foreign Minister Sebastian Kurz. Ukrainian news agency Union opens their story with the headline, "Austria proposes gradually cancelling Russia sanctions." Ukraine's state news agency Ukrinform ran a similar headline, "Austrian Foreign Minister proposes gradual cancellation of sanctions," as did sites such as Telegraph, Kharkiv news agency, Politru, and others. All these stories were based on a Reuters news item from June 19th, in which Austria's foreign minister calls for improving relations with Russia. During a television talk show on the Austrian ORF television channel, Kurz said the following: "I believe that we should gradually come to a modus in which for every implementation of the Minsk Protocol, for every single step, sanctions will be gradually lifted in return." Kurz is quite clear that in order for the sanctions to be phased out, Russia must fulfill its obligations under the Minsk agreement. This conditionality that Kurz refers to is conveniently absent in the Ukrainian and Russian stories on this topic. The full video of the June 19 television program Im Centrum, featuring Sebastian Kurz's statements, is available on the ORF TV website. Russian media continue to report that large numbers of Ukrainians are vacationing in occupied Crimea. Crimean First Deputy Prime Minister told RIA Novosti that Crimean border crossings had to increase the number of personnel manning posts because of the flood of vacationers from Ukraine. Deputy Speaker of the Crimean Parliament, Andrei Kozenko, also claimed that some 120,000 Ukrainians had already visited Crimea. That's 10% of the overall number of tourists visiting the peninsula. Russian publication Ukraina.ru added its voice to these claims, announcing that Ukrainian visitors were helping Crimea establish a 25-year tourism record. Ukrainian border guards report that with the onset of summer, the number of people entering Crimea from the Ukrainian mainland has increased. But compared with this time last year, less Ukrainians are actually going to Crimea. Ukrainian tour companies challenge the figures presented by the Crimean Tourism Ministry, which claims that 160,000 Ukrainians vacation in Crimea during the month of May alone. The Ukrainian Hospitality Association, however, maintains that it was only 35,000. Ukrainians are not eager to visit Crimea because of safety concerns, transportation issues, and an overall feeling of patriotism. Meanwhile, a website showing web cameras manning beaches and streets throughout Crimea show that the peninsula's beaches and popular vacation spots are largely empty. And finally, another favorite topic of Russian disinformation: regional autonomy. The Ukrainsky Noviny news site published a story claiming that Romanians living in the Bukovina region of Ukraine are demanding autonomy. The Assembly of Bukovina Romanians has allegedly written to Ukraine's President Petro Poroshenko asking that he grant territorial autonomy to Romanians living in the Chernivtsi region of Ukraine. The president's decision to grant territorial autonomy for the Crimean Tatars has created a legal and political precedent, and now all national minorities can lay claim to a similar status, claims the Assembly. The Assembly's coordinator, Irena Chalupa, allegedly communicated this information to Ukrainsky Noviny directly. Several hours after the story was published, it disappeared from the Ukrainsky Noviny website without explanation. It was also removed from all other Ukrainian sites, but is still available on all Russian sites. StopFake has already written about the fictitious Irena Chalupa last year. This person simply does not exist. The name Irena Chalupa is taken from the name of the mayor of Chisinau, Dorin Chalupa. There you have it. That's it for this week. Our video digest only presents a small amount of the fakes that we debunk every week. You can find much more dissected disinformation on the StopFake website. Be vigilant, look out for fakes, and if you spot any disinformation about Ukraine, send it to us for a truth autopsy. I'm Irena Chalupa, and this is StopFake. Thanks for watching.